Good morning. Bosses at the Welsh Rugby Union will be grilled by a Senedd committee later today. The chairman, Ian Evans, and the chief executive, Nigel Walker, will both face questions about the sexism allegations revealed in a BBC Wales documentary last week. The Welsh Government Sports Minister, Dawn Bowden, will also be giving evidence. Well, last night, the Welsh Rugby Union announced plans to modernise its board, including increasing the number of female members. Kevin Brennan is Labour MP for Cardiff West and sits on the Digital Culture, Media and Sport Committee in Westminster. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, Borada.
So you are part of the committee in Westminster and you took evidence during the Yorkshire cricket racism scandal. Now, Tonya Antoniazzi has said this scandal at the Welsh Rugby Union compares to that. Do you agree? Are there similarities here?
And we also recently took evidence from Bill Sweeney, Chief Executive of the English Rugby Union, about some of the problems there with two of the clubs actually dropping out of the professional top league in England recently. So it is right, that the committee today in the Senedd are doing their inquiry into this. That's absolutely right. And there are some very real issues that Tonya has been raising for some quite considerable time. And I'm glad that now the committee is digging into it, and I'm glad that the independent investigations being set up into the governance of the Welsh Rugby Union. I'm glad that Steve Phillips has resigned, and it looks like the Welsh Rugby Union are finally addressing these issues, which have been raised with it for some considerable time, and which were highlighted obviously on the BBC Wales programme.
Yeah, and you raise, the length of time people have known about this. As you make that point, Tonya Antoniazzi has said she raised this at Westminster, last March. I mean, are there questions for Welsh Government to answer here? Perhaps, how long they have known about this and action perhaps they should have taken sooner.
Well, let's be clear about this. The primary responsibility lies with the Welsh Rugby Union, and we shouldn't lose that focus here because they have to get their house in order. And it's always difficult when it comes to the stage where Parliament or the Senedd or governments have to get involved to get national institutions, which are an important part of our cultural and economic life, to do the right thing in the public interest. So ultimately, the responsibility lies with the Welsh Rugby Union. Yes, Tonya has been warning about this for some time, and it did take that programme, if you like, to break the dam, to make people realise that action needed to be taken, and that the Senedd and government had to get involved in helping to facilitate that action, because the Welsh Rugby Union clearly, I think it admits it himself, isn't capable of doing this on its own. So better late than never, I suppose. It is finally the summation of that position.
But Kevin, you would hope, wouldn't you, that when this was first raised all those months ago, 1st of March, I think, when first Tonya Antoniazzi spoke about it at Westminster, you would hope, it's expected that the Deputy Sports Minister would start a conversation and want to know more about this.
And I don't know what conversations may have gone on. So to be clear, I'm not, party to what might have been going on. But what I do know is the case is the Welsh Rugby Union have had these matters raised with them for some considerable time. And it is a big failure on their part that they've let things get to this stage. So it'll be interesting to see this morning when the leadership of the union appear. I mean, most people have welcomed, as I have, the fact that Nigel Walker has stepped in the meantime. And I hope Ian Evans is able to set out more clearly what the Welsh Rugby Union are going to do. We've got the we're on the cusp of the Six Nations, which is what we ought to be talking about in rugby. I think it's the 50th year since I've been attending this year games in Cardiff in the Five Nations as it was in the Six Nations now. So this is the time now where the Welsh Rugby Union needs to take decisive action. And it is good, if you like, that at this moment that the Senedd committee has now stepped in to do the scrutiny, the sorts of things, that I've been involved in with other supporting bodies, and that the government are helping to facilitate this. But what I would say is that Welsh government shouldn't be running Welsh rugby. Welsh rugby ultimately has to sort itself out. It can be helped to do that, but it's got to find a way to run the game that doesn't involve there being this misogynistic culture that we've heard so much about, and that doesn't involve the sort of financial basket case that it's become, where you get to the stage where professional players don't even know if they've got a contract for the following year.
And with your experience, on the DCMS committee, Kevin, if you were on this committee today, what would you be asking?
Well, I would want to, first of all, go through the whole process by which we've got to this stage and then to look forward. I think that's what's important. And if things have not been revealed that should have been revealed so far, then I hope that the committee will be able to get those matters revealed today, because everything needs to be out there in the open. What's happened too much is that people have tended to try and shut down complaints, have tended to try and treat the Welsh Rugby Union as if it's an island unto itself and doesn't have any part to play in our national conversation. And that's not acceptable. If it's going to have a genuinely new open culture, then the committee members today, I hope, will ask searching questions, and the leadership of the Welsh Rugby Union, I hope, will be open, straightforward and honest, because that's what works in these settings. It's when people are trying to obfuscate, hide behind non-disclosure agreements, hide behind confidentiality, that the real problems occur. So this is a watershed moment for Welsh Rugby and for the Welsh Rugby Union, and hopefully it'll be the starting point where we can from now on be talking more about the game rather than about the governance of the game.
A strong message from you, Kevin. As you were saying, Six Nations starting this weekend, and you've been going for many years, no doubt singing and swaying along with the crowd in the build-up to kick-off. Delilah, now banned by the Welsh Rugby Union. Right decision? What do you think?
I think it's a distraction, to be honest with you, from the really serious issues that we are talking about today. Some people may know I've written the odd song myself, including the odd song in the persona of unsavory characters. Even the green grass of home is about a man about to be hanged. Who knows what crime he's just committed? I think what we need to focus on really are the genuinely serious issues. Rather than whether or not it's acceptable for a pop song to have, lyrics about difficult subjects as opposed to opera or Shakespeare or anything else. So I think personally that this is a distraction. I know some people don't like that song and I understand why, but I think it's a distraction from the really, serious issues that we ought to be sorting out in Welsh Rugby.
Kevin, really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Kevin Brennan, their Labour MP for Cardiff West, who sits on the Digital Culture, Media and Sport Committee.